Mill Creek, Ohio, is nestled between rolling hills and a river that once fed a local paper mill, the heart of the town's economy for 80 years. When the mill closed in 2010, the town didn't die, but it changed. Today, Mill Creek's 15,000 residents work mainly at the county hospital, in the school system, or commute to nearby Riverside, an hour away. St. Redemption Church stands on a hill in the center of Mill Creek. On Sundays, parishioners climb 47 steps to the massive oak doors. A well-manicured lawn and immaculately tended rose bushes surround the brick building. The Holy Redemption community is a lifeline for many Mill Creek residents, says Elizabeth Jones, a 67-year-old Sunday school teacher. When the factory closed, people lost not only their jobs but also their sense of purpose. Pastor Howard helped us find hope again. James Howard became the church's pastor 8 years ago. He moved to Mill Creek with his wife Rebecca and a reputation for reviving declining congregations. Before the Howards arrived, attendance at Holy Redemption Church had dropped to 40 to 50 people each Sunday. Now more than 300 parishioners gather here. James has a gift for connecting ancient writings with contemporary issues, explains Robert Fisher, one of the church elders. He speaks about faith in a language that everyone can understand, from teenagers to retirees, and he's always there when someone needs help. Video footage shows Pastor Howard at the annual city festival. He is tall, broad-shouldered, with neatly trimmed blonde hair and a warm, attentive gaze. The pastor laughs with a group of parishioners, then turns to hug a woman passing by, his wife, Rebecca. Rebecca Howard, 39, with shoulder-length brown hair and a reserved smile, used to be an elementary school teacher, but left her career when she and James moved to Mill Creek. Rebecca is always in her husband's shadow, notes Sarah Campbell, owner of the local bookstore New Chapter. She's a smart, educated woman, but she becomes almost invisible next to James. I've known her for 7 years, and sometimes I feel like she's slowly disappearing. Sarah is one of Rebecca's few close friends in Mill Creek. They met shortly after the Howards moved to town. When they first moved here, Rebecca often came into the store, and we would discuss the books she was teaching her students. She talked about plans to maybe start teaching here again, but that never happened, Sarah recalls. The camera shows the Howards' house, a 2-story white colonial-style building located 3 blocks from the church. The lawn is perfectly manicured, the flower beds are neat, and an American flag flies at the front door. Rebecca is an excellent hostess, says Martha Stevens, an elderly parishioner. When the church council meets at their house, everything is always impeccable. She's like a woman from another era, a real pastor's wife. Events at Holy Redemption Church changed 6 months ago when the congregation was introduced to a new choir director. Laura Simmons, 35, came to Mill Creek from Chicago. With a background in music and experience singing in several prestigious church choirs, she brought new energy to the parish's music program. Laura has literally transformed our choir, Deacon Patrick Williams enthuses. We used to sing the same hymns our grandmothers sang. Now we have both classical pieces and contemporary compositions. People come specifically to hear the music. Archival footage shows Laura Simmons at the piano conducting the church choir. She looks elegant in a simple dark blue dress, her light hair pulled back into a neat bun. Her movements are energetic and precise, her eyes ablaze as she leads the choir to a crescendo. The camera cuts to Pastor Howard standing to the side. He watches Laura with an expression of undisguised admiration on his face. James recognized Laura's talent right away, comments Robert Fisher. He allocated additional funding for the music program and gave her complete freedom to choose the repertoire. Our choir has never sounded better. The scene shifts to a church picnic in a city park. Children play on the playground while adults chat at tables laden with food. Rebecca Howard helps an elderly woman fill her plate. At the other end of the park, James and Laura stand side by side, leaning over a music book. They are standing closer than necessary. When someone calls out to the pastor, he takes a step away from Laura, instantly changing his expression from intimate to professional. They spend a lot of time together working on services, explains Deacon Williams. James always said that music is the way to people's hearts. He and Laura seem to share that vision. Sarah Campbell notices something else. Rebecca has changed since Laura came along. She's become even quieter, more withdrawn. Once I noticed bruises on her wrist. When I asked her about it, she said she'd hit the door. But I know what finger marks look like. The final scenes of the first part show Sunday service. James Howard delivers an inspiring sermon on fidelity. Rebecca sits in the front row, her gaze fixed on the floor. The choir sings the final hymn. Laura conducts with her eyes closed, completely immersed in the music. When she opens her eyes, her gaze immediately finds James. No one but Sarah Campbell notices Rebecca Howard discreetly wiping away a tear. Tuesday, 7:30 a.m. The Howard parsonage is quiet. The camera slowly pans across the kitchen where Rebecca is preparing breakfast. Eggs, toast, freshly squeezed orange juice. James likes a hearty breakfast before his morning church council meetings, she says, without looking up from the frying pan. Her movements are methodical, honed by years of routine. James enters, already dressed in his suit, checking messages on his phone. "Is the coffee ready?" he asks, without looking up from the screen. "Yes, dear." Rebecca pours coffee into a mug that says, "Best Pastor." On the kitchen wall hangs a photograph of James and Rebecca on their wedding day 14 years ago. They look young and full of hope. Rebecca is smiling broadly and openly in the photo, a smile that rarely appears on her face these days. "I'll be home late tonight," James says between sips of coffee. Choir practice, then a meeting with Laura about the Easter program. Rebecca tenses up slightly. "Again? That's the third night this week." James finally looks up from his phone, his voice growing colder. "The church is my job, Rebecca. Would you rather I neglect my duties?" "Of course not, Just what?" He cuts her off. "Nothing." Rebecca turns away toward the stove. "I thought maybe we could have dinner together." James's face softens and he comes over and puts his hands on her shoulders. "Soon, I promise. After Easter, everything will calm down." His hands squeeze a little tighter than necessary. "You understand how important this is to us." In the afternoon, Sarah Campbell is arranging new books in her shop when the doorbell rings. Rebecca enters. "Long time no see," Sarah greets her, hugging her friend. "How are you?" "Fine," Rebecca replies, but her voice sounds strained. "Just looking for something to read." Sarah studies her friend's face closely. "You look tired." "I haven't been sleeping much lately." They walk over to a cozy corner of the store with 2 armchairs. Sarah closes the closed sign on the door and brings 2 cups of tea. "What's going on, Becky?" she asks, using a nickname no one else uses anymore. "And don't say nothing, I know you too well." Rebecca stares into her cup for a long time. "I think James is cheating on me." "With Laura?" Sarah asks quietly. Rebecca looks up, surprised. "Did you know?" "I saw the way they looked at each other, but I hoped I was wrong." "He's always with her," Rebecca continues. "Rehearsals, planning, special projects. He comes home with her perfume on his shirt. When I ask questions, he gets angry." Rebecca's sleeve slips down, revealing a yellow-purple bruise on her forearm. "Becky," Sarah begins, nodding at the bruise. Rebecca quickly pulls her sleeve down. "I said something wrong. He didn't mean to, it's just... This isn't the first time, is it?" Rebecca looks out the window. "He does so much for the community. You have no idea how much pressure he's under." "That's no excuse," Sarah says firmly. "You have to..." "What do I have to do?" Rebecca interrupts. "Leave? Where? With what money? I haven't worked in 10 years, and if I start talking, who would believe me against Pastor Howard?" That evening, choir practice ends at the church. The parishioners leave, leaving Laura and James alone in the chapel. "The sopranos sound beautiful," James says, helping Laura gather her sheet music. Their hands touch, lingering longer than necessary. "I'm trying," Laura smiles. "You seem tense today." James looks around to make sure they are alone. Rebecca suspects something. She's been asking questions. "Did you say anything to her?" "Of course not." James lowers his voice. "But we have to be careful. If the truth comes out, it won't," Laura says confidently, touching his cheek. "Let's talk in your office. I have some ideas for the Easter program." In the pastor's office, after making sure the door is locked, James pulls Laura toward him. Their kiss is passionate, desperate. When they pull apart, Laura asks, "When are we going to stop hiding?" James turns away, running his hand through his hair. You know what's at stake. My reputation, my career, my... What about us? Laura insists. I'm tired of being a secret. We love each other. I'm working on it, James assures her. We just need to pick the right time. It's complicated. Is it because of money? James tenses up. What do you mean? I saw the financial statements on your desk, Laura says. Is something wrong with the donations for the new youth center? Nothing, just temporary difficulties. James walks over to the window. A few discrepancies in the accounts. I'll fix it before the audit. In the Mill Creek Sheriff's Office, Detective Michael Drake is reviewing reports. Drake, 41, transferred here from the Cleveland Police Department 2 years ago, seeking a quieter life. With his piercing eyes and prematurely graying temples, he looks like a man who has seen more than he would like to remember. New case, Mike, Sheriff Donovan says, placing a folder on the desk. Complaint from the treasurer of Holy Redemption Church. Suspected embezzlement. Drake raises an eyebrow. Howard's Church. That's right. Concerned about some financial transactions. Nothing official yet, just wants some advice. Why come to us and not Howard himself? The sheriff shrugs, probably afraid of making a fuss until he's sure. You go to that church, right? Meet with him informally. The detective nods. Howard's a good man. I'm sure it's a misunderstanding. Most likely, the sheriff agrees, but it's worth checking out. Late in the evening, Rebecca Howard is sitting in the dark living room when James's car pulls up. The clock reads 11:42. Choir practice ended 3 hours ago. The front door opens, and James tries to sneak upstairs quietly. Where have you been? Rebecca asks from the darkness. James flinches, then turns on the light. God, Rebecca, you scared me. Why are you sitting in the dark? Where have you been? She repeats. I told you. Rehearsal, then planning for the Easter program. His voice sounds irritated. Why are you interrogating me? Rehearsal ended at 8:30. I called the church. James takes off his coat, his movements becoming jerky. Laura and I went out to dinner to discuss the details. What's wrong with that? To Riverside? An hour's drive from here? James's face changes. Have you been following me? No. But Carol Meyer saw your car at the Lakeview Inn. She thought you were having a meeting and called to ask why she hadn't been invited. James takes a step toward Rebecca, his voice becoming threateningly quiet. Who else have you told about your suspicions? No one, Rebecca replies, but her gaze briefly wanders to the photo of Sarah on the mantelpiece. You're lying. James follows her gaze. Did you talk to Sarah? What did you tell her? Nothing. James's hand shoots up. The camera pans away, showing a photo of James and Rebecca smiling on their wedding day. A thud and a muffled scream are heard off screen. Sunday morning. St. Redemption Church is packed. Pastor James Howard stands at the pulpit, his voice filling the space. The truth will set you free, he says, looking out at the congregation. But sometimes the truth hurts. Sometimes we prefer a comfortable lie. Rebecca is sitting in the front row. Dark glasses hide her swollen eye. An elderly woman sitting next to her leans over and asks, Dear, are you wearing glasses indoors? Migraine, Rebecca replies quietly. The choir begins to sing, Laura Simmons conducting elegantly. During the break between songs, her gaze meets James's for a moment longer than is proper. Sarah Campbell, sitting in the middle of the church, notices the exchange. She also notices Rebecca in her dark glasses and how the woman flinches at every loud sound. Sarah frowns. After the service, Detective Michael Drake stands in the churchyard watching the parishioners disperse. He approaches Walter Green, the church treasurer, a short, graying man with glasses. Thank you for taking the time, Green says, motioning the detective aside. I feel terrible doing this, but I have to be sure. They walk to a bench under an old oak tree. Green opens a leather briefcase and takes out several documents. Here, take a look. These are the bills for the youth center construction. The treasurer points to the numbers. The amounts don't add up. The contractor claims he received $70,000 less than we approved. Drake studies the documents. Who else has access to these funds? Only me and Pastor Howard, Green replies. But that's not all. Strange transfers began about 6 months ago. It coincides with the beginning. He pauses. With what? Drake asks. Green lowers his voice. With the arrival of Miss Simmons, I've never seen a choir director paid that kind of salary. And then there are expenses for music consulting that no one can explain. Have you discussed this with the pastor? I tried. He said he'd look into it, but nothing has changed. Now he avoids me, reschedules meetings. Green looks exhausted. The audit is scheduled for 2 weeks from now, if everything comes out. Drake nods. I'll see what I can do, unofficially for now. Meanwhile, at Sarah's bookstore, Rebecca takes off her dark glasses. There's a dark bruise under her right eye. "Oh my God, Becky," Sarah gasps. "Did he do that?" Rebecca nods, trying to hold back tears. "He found out I was talking to you. He said I was ruining his life." Sarah hugs her friend. "You have to leave. Right now. You can stay with me." "I can't," Rebecca whispers. "He'll find me. There's nowhere to hide in this town. Then go to the police. Social services." And who would believe that a respectable pastor beats his wife? Rebecca smiles bitterly. People will only see what they want to see. Sarah is silent for a moment, then says firmly, "Then gather evidence. Anything you can find about the abuse, the infidelity, anything." "Why? Insurance, protection. You're not alone, Becky." Tuesday noon. James Howard sits in his church office, reviewing financial documents. There's a knock at the door. "Come in," he says, hurriedly putting away his papers. Detective Drake enters. "Pastor, sorry to bother you. Do you have a minute?" James forces a smile. "Of course, Detective. How can I help you?" "Just checking. We've had complaints about suspicious activity around the church at night." It's a lie, but James doesn't know that. His shoulders relax noticeably. "Really? No one told me. Have you noticed anything unusual? Maybe some missing property?" "No, nothing like that." James adjusts his shirt collar. "But I appreciate your vigilance." Drake walks over to the bookcase, looking at the photographs. "Excellent work with the youth center. I hear construction is well underway." James tenses slightly. "Yes, with God's help, and the generosity of the parishioners. And good financial management, I'm sure," Drake adds, watching the pastor's reaction closely. "Mr. Green seems like a very thorough treasurer." "Walter is irreplaceable," James says, but his smile doesn't reach his eyes. "Anything else, Detective? I have a meeting soon." Later that evening, the Howard home. Rebecca is sitting at her computer in her home office. Hearing the sound of an engine on the driveway, she quickly copies some files onto a flash drive and hides it in her sweater pocket. James enters the house, alert. "Rebecca? In the study," she replies, closing her laptop. James appears in the doorway. "What are you doing?" "Looking at photos for the church bulletin," she lies calmly. "You're early. Was rehearsal canceled?" "No rehearsal today," he replies sharply. "Detective Drake was here today." Rebecca tries to look surprised. "Why?" "He says he's investigating complaints about suspicious activity." James moves closer. "But he asks strange questions about finances, about Walter. Maybe there really was a complaint?" "I don't believe in coincidences, especially after you met with Sarah." His voice becomes icy. "You told her something, and she went to the police." "No, I didn't tell anyone anything about..." "About what? About the money? About the hotel? About Laura?" James looms over her. "What do you know, Rebecca?" Suddenly she straightens up, her fear replaced by anger. "I know enough, James. I know about your relationship with Laura. I know about the consulting payments. I know you're stealing church money." James turns pale. "You've been going through my files." "It's my computer too," Rebecca retorts. "You were just too cocky to use a password. What do you want?" His voice is now almost a whisper. Rebecca summons all her courage. "I want a divorce. And don't try to stop me, James. I have copies of everything." She stands up. "If you raise your hand to me again, if you try to intimidate me, I'll go to the church council, to the parishioners, to the police, to everyone." James looks at her as if she were a stranger. "You won't do that. You'll destroy everything we've built over the years." "You've already destroyed everything," she replies. "I'll give you a week to settle things. Then I'm leaving." James steps back. "You need time to think. You don't understand what you're getting yourself into." "I understand perfectly well," says Rebecca, "and I'm not afraid of you anymore." Late at night, Laura opens the door to her apartment, surprised by James's visit at such a late hour. "What's wrong?" she asks, seeing his pale, tense face. "Rebecca knows," he says, stepping inside. "About us, about the money, about everything." Laura closes the door. "How did she find out?" "It doesn't matter." James collapses onto the sofa, covering his face with his hands. "She's threatening to tell everyone. Divorce? A public scandal? Maybe it's for the best," Laura suggests cautiously, sitting down next to him. "We could be together openly." "You don't understand," James replies irritably. "A scandal would destroy my career, and if the information about my finances comes out, I could go to prison." "How much?" Laura asks quietly. "How much money did you take?" James looks at her bitterly. "Enough to pay for your apartment, your wardrobe, our trips. Do you think a pastor's salary can afford all that?" Laura moves away. "You never said the money was stolen. You never asked." James stands up and starts pacing the room. "Besides, technically it's not stealing. I just borrowed it. I was going to pay it back when the time came." "And how were you going to pay back $70,000? James stops. "How do you know the exact amount?" Laura looks away. "Detective Drake was here today. He asked about music consulting. I told him I didn't know what he was talking about." "Damn it!" James punches the wall. "Everything is falling apart. Drake, Rebecca, the audit." "What are you going to do?" Laura asks, her voice trembling. James turns to her, his eyes frighteningly empty. "The only thing I can. Eliminate the threat." "What do you mean?" "Rebecca is our main problem. Without her testimony, everything can be settled." His voice sounds detached, as if he's discussing an abstract task. "Drake won't be able to prove anything without her testimony." Laura stands up, her face contorted with horror. "James, you can't what?" He stares at her blankly. "Protect us? Protect our future?" "I don't know you," Laura whispers, backing away. "Yes, you do," James says harshly. "I'm the one who will do whatever it takes to ensure we have a future. And right now, I need you to be with me, completely." That same night, Rebecca calls Sarah. "I told him I'm leaving." "How did he react?" Sarah asks anxiously. "Surprisingly calm, but that scares me even more." Rebecca glances at the closed bedroom door where James went an hour ago. "He's up to something, I can feel it. Come over here right now." "I can't. He's watching my car and my phone." Rebecca lowers her voice. "But I've prepared. I copied all the evidence onto a flash drive. Tomorrow I'll give you a copy and another one to Detective Drake." "Be careful," Sarah pleads. "He could be dangerous." "I know, but I won't be a victim anymore." After ending the call, Rebecca doesn't notice the shadow under her bedroom door, which disappears when she turns around. On Wednesday morning, Detective Drake is sitting at his desk reviewing the church's financial documents when the phone rings. "Drake," he answers. "Detective, this is Sarah Campbell." A woman's voice sounds alarmed. "I'm a friend of Rebecca Howard's. I need to talk to you. It's urgent." "About what?" "About Pastor Howard. About abuse, deception, embezzlement. Rebecca has proof and she's going to meet with you today." Drake straightens up. "Where is she now?" "At home, but I'm afraid for her. James knows she's leaving him." "Stay on the line," Drake says, reaching for his gun and badge. "I'm on my way." At the same time, at the Howard's house, Rebecca is gathering documents into a folder. The calendar on the wall shows Wednesday, April 10th. The date a week from now is circled. Meeting with lawyer. James enters, unexpectedly calm. "Good morning." Rebecca tenses up, but continues gathering papers. "Good morning." "I've been thinking about our conversation," James says, coming closer. "You're right. We need to talk calmly." Rebecca gives him a suspicious look. "Now? Why not? Over a cup of coffee. I've already made some." He hands her a mug. She hesitates, then takes it but doesn't drink. "What do you want to discuss?" "The terms." James sits down, gesturing for her to do the same. "If you've decided to leave, let's do this civilly." Rebecca sits down cautiously across from him. "I'm listening." "I won't stop you," James says, "but let's be honest. Nobody needs a scandal, especially you. You don't want to be the woman who destroyed the church, do you? I didn't destroy the church, Rebecca replies firmly. You did. James smiles, but his eyes remain cold. Have some coffee, Rebecca. You're going to need your strength for the weeks ahead. Wednesday, April 10th, 9:37 a.m. The Howard's house. I really think we should talk about this, James insists, looking at the untouched mug of coffee in front of Rebecca. Drink it before it gets cold. Rebecca looks at the coffee, then at her husband. For a moment, her gaze lingers on the unusual metallic glint at the bottom of the liquid. I don't want coffee, James, and I don't want to discuss terms. I'm just leaving. She stands up, but James grabs her wrist. You're not leaving until we finish this conversation. Let go of me. Her voice is firm, despite her fear. You think I'll let you destroy everything I've built? James hisses. You think you can just walk away with my documents? Rebecca pulls her hand away. With the evidence of your crimes, you mean? Suddenly, the doorbell rings. James and Rebecca freeze. Who is it? James asks, looking suspiciously at his wife. I'm not expecting anyone, she replies honestly. James goes to the window and pulls back the curtain. A police car is parked in the driveway. Detective Drake, he says, his face a mask of controlled rage. What have you done? Nothing. I didn't call him, Rebecca assures him, stepping back. The doorbell rings again. James takes a deep breath, straightens his shoulders, and puts on a professional smile. Not a word, he warns quietly, or you'll be sorry. He goes to open the door, leaving Rebecca in the dining room. She quickly pours her coffee into a flower pot. Detective Drake! James's voice sounds surprised and friendly. What brings you here so early? Good morning, Pastor, Drake replies. I hope I'm not disturbing you. I wanted to talk to Mrs. Howard. Rebecca? Why? Just a formality. May I? James hesitates for a second, then steps back with a smile. Of course. She's in the dining room. The detective enters the house, looking around carefully. Rebecca is standing by the window, pale but composed. Good morning, Mrs. Howard, Drake says. Can I speak with you alone? Before Rebecca can answer, James interjects. We have no secrets from each other, detective. Whatever you wish to discuss with my wife, you can discuss in front of me. Drake looks at Rebecca, noticing her tension and anxious expression. Mrs. Howard? She opens her mouth, but James puts his hand on her shoulder, squeezing it slightly. It's okay, dear. You can speak freely. I'd prefer to speak with the detective alone, Rebecca finally says. James's face hardens, but he keeps smiling. Of course, I'll be in my office if you need me. He leaves the room but doesn't close the door completely. Drake lowers his voice. Mrs. Howard, Sarah Campbell called me. She's concerned about your safety. Rebecca turns even paler. She shouldn't have. She claims you have information about financial irregularities and domestic violence. Rebecca glances nervously at the half-open door. Not here. I can arrange protection for you, Drake says. If you're in danger. I'm not in danger, Rebecca replies too quickly. It's just a misunderstanding. Drake notices the bruise still visible under her makeup. Is that bruise also a misunderstanding? Suddenly, the door bursts open and James enters the room. Looks like the conversation is taking a while. Rebecca has a meeting at church in half an hour. I don't have any appointments, Rebecca objects, and for a moment her fear is replaced by anger. Of course you do, dear, James insists, his voice sweet but his eyes cold. You're helping with the Easter festival preparations, remember? A tense silence descends. Drake looks at Rebecca. She looks at her husband. Finally, the detective says, Well, I won't keep you. But if you want to talk anytime, here's my card. He hands the card to Rebecca. James snatches it. I'll give it to my wife. Now, if you don't mind, we have a lot to do. Drake hesitates, clearly not wanting to leave. Mrs. Howard, are you sure everything is all right? Rebecca looks at James, then at the detective. Yes, thank you for your concern. When the detective leaves, James locks the door and slowly turns to his wife. What did you tell him? Nothing, I swear. Rebecca steps back. Sarah called him, not me. And what does Sarah know? Only that we have problems. James goes to the window and watches the police car drive away. Drake won't back down. He'll dig deeper. Then maybe it's time to stop? Rebecca suggests cautiously. Confess, return the money. James bursts out in bitter laughter. And end up in prison? Lose everything? He shakes his head. No, it's too late for that. He looks at her with a long, appraising gaze. Get ready. We're leaving. Where? To the Fisher's country house. Robert gave me the keys for the week. He said I needed to relax before Easter. James smiles crookedly. There we can discuss everything, without anyone else around. Meanwhile, Detective Drake calls Sarah from his car. I just got back from the Howards. Rebecca is clearly scared, but she refuses to talk. Can't you arrest her or something? Sarah asks. For what? I don't have a warrant, no official charges, and she's not pressing any claims. What now? I'll keep an eye on the situation, Drake says, and try to speed up the financial investigation. If we find evidence of embezzlement, by then it may be too late, Sarah concludes grimly. 4:30 p.m. the same day. The Fisher's country house is located in the woods, 20 miles from Mill Creek. The 2-story wooden cottage stands on the shore of a small lake, far from other houses. James parks the car in front of the house. They have driven all the way here in silence. Why are we here? Rebecca asks when he turns off the engine. To solve our problems, James replies, taking the bags out of the trunk. Away from prying eyes. The house is cool and quiet. Large windows overlook the lake. In a different situation, the place would seem peaceful. Not bad, huh? James says, turning on the lights. Downstairs is the living room, kitchen, and Robert's study. Upstairs are 2 bedrooms. James, Rebecca stands at the door, still wearing her coat. I don't understand what's going on. He puts his bags on the floor. What's there to understand? We need time and space to discuss our situation. No one will disturb us here. How long will we be here? Until we've sorted everything out, he replies evasively. Make yourself comfortable. I'll get some wood for the fireplace. When James leaves, Rebecca frantically searches the house. She finds a phone in the study, but the line is dead. There's no cell service here. She goes to the window. There's nothing but woods and the lake, and the nearest house is several miles away. Rebecca opens the bag James packed for her. It contains the bare minimum for 3 or 4 days. She checks the pockets of her coat. The flash drive with her documents is still there. James returns with an armful of firewood and notices her troubled expression. Is something wrong? The phone isn't working, she says. Yes, the line was cut for the winter, he replies, starting to light the fireplace. And cell service has always been terrible here. Complete isolation. That's why the Fishers love this place. I need to call Sarah and tell her where I am. Sarah knows you're with me, that's enough, James says curtly. Let's talk about the important stuff. About your accusations. It's evening. James is preparing dinner in the kitchen, filling 2 glasses with wine. Rebecca is sitting by the fireplace, tense and alert. You know, James says, placing the plates on the table, I've been thinking a lot about what you said, about divorce, about exposing everything. He hands her a glass. And I've come to the conclusion that you're right. Rebecca looks at him in surprise. What? Our marriage died a long time ago, he continues, sitting down opposite her. We're both unhappy, and I'm sorry for the way I treated you. Rebecca takes the glass warily but doesn't drink. It's a sudden realization. More like an admission of the inevitable. James takes a sip of wine. We can part amicably. I'll give you enough money to start a new life, anywhere you want. What about the church money? Your relationship with Laura? His gaze hardens. That must remain in the past, for the greater good. The community deserves to know the truth, Rebecca insists. The truth will destroy the church, James objects. Is that what you want? To destroy the faith of so many people? He raises his glass. To new beginnings. Drink. Rebecca stares at the dark red wine, then sets her glass down. I don't want to drink. Why not? It's just wine. James smiles, but his eyes remain cold. Or do you think I'm trying to poison you, like I did with your coffee this morning? Rebecca turns pale. I saw you pour the coffee into the flour, he interrupts. Don't take me for a fool, Rebecca. She stands up. I'm tired. I'm going to bed. Of course, he agrees with unnatural calm. Get some rest. Tomorrow will be an important day. In her bedroom upstairs, Rebecca locks the door and pushes a dresser against it. She doesn't sleep all night, listening for every sound in the house. Meanwhile, in Mill Creek, Sarah calls Detective Drake. I can't get through to Rebecca. Her phone is off. Maybe she turned it off? Drake suggests. She never does that, especially now that she's afraid of her husband. Do you know where she might be? No, but Sarah hesitates. She said James was insisting on a trip to talk things over. Drake frowns. Did she say where? No, but she was going to refuse. She said it might be dangerous. Got it, I'll check if they've left town. Thursday morning, April 11th, the Fishers' country house. Rebecca wakes up to the smell of freshly brewed coffee. She cautiously leaves the bedroom. James is in the kitchen, whistling as he prepares breakfast. Good morning. You look terrible. Did you sleep badly? Rebecca ignores the question. I want to go back to the city. After breakfast, James replies, placing a plate of scrambled eggs in front of her. We have a lot to discuss. There's nothing to discuss. I'm leaving you, James, and I won't keep quiet about your crimes. His face contorts. Even after all my apologies? My offers of compromise? Compromise? You want me to just walk away and let you continue deceiving everyone? James slams down the coffee pot. I'm trying to protect the community, to protect Laura, and yes, myself too, at the expense of the truth. The truth is overrated, he says bitterly, especially when it destroys lives. Rebecca shakes her head. Take me to town, now. And what will you do? James asks, his voice dangerously quiet. Are you going to the police with the flash drive you hid in your coat pocket? Rebecca freezes. Of course I know about it. James moves closer. I know everything about you, Rebecca. 14 years of marriage. Then you know I won't change my mind. I know, he nods. That's why we only have one option. He takes a bread knife from the table. James. Rebecca steps back. Think about what you're doing. I've been thinking all night, he replies, gripping the knife handle. You left me no choice. Rebecca rushes to the door, but James grabs her by the hair. She screams, tries to break free, knocks over a chair. In desperation, she grabs a hot coffee pot and splashes its contents in James's face. He roars in pain and lets her go. Rebecca runs toward the exit, but he catches up with her in the living room and knocks her to the floor. The knife falls from his hand and slides across the wooden floor. They struggle on the floor, James choking her, his burned face contorted with rage. You ruined everything! Everything! Rebecca gasps, scratching his hands, trying to pull them away from her throat. Her vision begins to darken. Her hand finds something heavy, a bronze angel figurine from the mantelpiece. With her last ounce of strength, she hits James on the head. His grip loosens. He falls to his side, stunned but still conscious. Rebecca crawls away, gasping for air, her throat burning with pain. James staggers to his knees, blood running down his face. You won't get away. He reaches for the knife lying on the floor. Rebecca sees it, sees the madness in his eyes. She grabs the statuette again and strikes once more, harder. The sound of metal striking bone echoes through the room. James falls face down and doesn't move. Rebecca, trembling, crawls toward him. James? There is no answer. She gently touches his neck, trying to find a pulse. Nothing. The reality of what has happened hits her. She has just killed her husband. In shock, Rebecca stands up on shaky legs, backing away from the body. What now? Call the police? The line is dead. Run? Where? Her gaze falls on James's blood-covered face. The man she once loved. The man who turned her life into hell. The man who just tried to kill her. In the yard, she hears the sound of a car pulling up. April 11th, 9:23 a.m. the Fisher country house. The sound of the car pulling up makes Rebecca freeze. She looks around. The living room is trashed. Furniture is overturned. There is blood on the floor, on the walls, on her hands. And James's body, motionless, his eyes open, staring into the void. A car door slams. Rebecca frantically searches for a weapon, grabbing the knife James had threatened her with from the floor. Her hands are shaking. Footsteps sound on the porch, then a knock on the door. Rebecca, James? A familiar female voice. Are you there? It's Sarah. Rebecca drops the knife, breathing out with relief. Sarah. She opens the door. Sarah Campbell stands in the doorway, Detective Drake behind her. My God, Sarah gasps, seeing Rebecca's condition. Disheveled hair, torn clothes, bruises on her neck, blood on her hands. Drake instinctively puts his hand on his holster. Mrs. Howard, what happened? Rebecca can't speak, only points inside the house. Drake carefully walks past her, and Sarah hugs her friend, who begins to sob silently. He's dead, Drake states after checking James's pulse. He tried to kill me, Rebecca finally says in a trembling voice. First coffee in the morning, then wine. I didn't drink, and today he took a knife. She touches the bruises on her neck. I was just defending myself. You need medical attention, says Sarah, sitting her down on the sofa. Mike, call an ambulance. No signal, Drake replies, surveying the scene. We'll have to go into town. He takes out a pair of handcuffs. What are you doing? Sarah asks, standing between him and Rebecca. Standard procedure, he explains. I have to detain her until we get to the bottom of this. Can't you see what happened? Sarah protests. It was self-defense. Possibly, Drake agrees, but that's for a court to decide, not me. He turns to Rebecca. Mrs. Howard, you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say, I know my rights, Rebecca says quietly, and I'll tell you everything. But first, she takes a flash drive out of her coat pocket. This is everything. James's financial fraud, proof of his infidelity, records of the abuse I've endured for years. Drake takes the flash drive. This will be added to the case file. Now we need to go. How did you find us? Rebecca asks as they walk to their cars. When you went missing, I sounded the alarm, Sarah explains. The detective and I called everyone at the church. Robert Fisher mentioned that he had given James the keys to the lakehouse. April 11th, 2:15 p.m. Mill Creek Police Station. Rebecca Howard sits in the interrogation room, her hands bandaged, James's fingerprints visible on her neck. Across from her are Detective Drake, Sheriff Donovan, and District Attorney Elizabeth Martinez. Tell us again what happened, Martinez asks. Rebecca sighs deeply. James took me to the Fisher house after I told him I was leaving him and was going to expose his embezzlement of church funds. I threatened to reveal his relationship with Laura Simmons. The choir director? The sheriff asks. Rebecca nods. Their affair began about 6 months ago when she showed up at the church. At the same time, James started transferring church money to his personal accounts. He spent some of it on Laura, her apartment, gifts. Why didn't you go to the police sooner? Martinez asks. Who would have believed me? Rebecca smiles bitterly. James is a respected pastor. I'm just his wife. I don't have a job or any money of my own. I'm completely dependent on him. Drake turns on his laptop. We looked through the contents of the flash drive. There are indeed bank statements confirming the illegal transfers, and photos of bruises dating back 2 years. I kept a diary, Rebecca adds. I wrote down every instance of abuse. At first it was emotional pressure, control. Then he started getting physical, especially after he started having an affair with Laura. And yesterday he tried to kill you? Yes. First he put something in my coffee, but I noticed. Then he tried the same thing with my wine, and in the morning, Rebecca touches the bruises on her neck. He took a knife. He said I left him no choice, that he wouldn't let me ruin everything. And you defended yourself with the statuette? It was close at hand. I didn't want to kill him. I just wanted him to stop strangling me. Martinez closes his notebook. Given the circumstances and the evidence available, I'm inclined to believe it was self-defense, but the final decision will be made after a full investigation. April 12th. The Mill Creek Sheriff's Office is crowded with reporters. Sheriff Donovan is holding a press conference. Yesterday morning, the body of Pastor James Howard was found in a country house near Mill Creek. As a result of a preliminary investigation, his wife, Rebecca Howard, was taken into custody but later released on her own recognizance. The evidence available indicates self-defense. Journalists shout questions. Is it true that Pastor Howard embezzled church funds? Was there marital infidelity? What is Laura Simmons' role in this case? The sheriff raises his hands, calling for silence. The investigation is ongoing. We have discovered serious financial irregularities in the management of the Holy Redemption Church's funds. According to preliminary data, Pastor Howard embezzled approximately $120,000 in donations over the past 6 months. Laura Simmons stands in the crowd of journalists, pale, with dark circles under her eyes. She hurriedly leaves upon hearing this information. April 15th, Sarah Campbell's bookstore. Rebecca sits in a chair by the window, looking out at the street. The store is closed to visitors with a sign on the door reading, "Closed for family reasons." "How are you?" Sarah asks, bringing her tea. "I don't know," Rebecca replies honestly. "Sometimes it feels like this isn't happening to me, like I'm watching someone else's life. It's a shock. Time will pass." "I'm not sure I want it to pass," Rebecca says. "Then I'll have to fully realize that I killed a man. My husband. A man who tried to kill you," Sarah reminds her. "Who abused you for years." The doorbell rings and Detective Drake enters. "Sorry to intrude," he says. "I have some news that may interest you." He sits down opposite the women. First, toxicology tests confirmed the presence of sedatives in the coffee cup and wine bottle from the Fisher home. The dose was 3 times the therapeutic dose. Rebecca closes her eyes. "He really wanted to kill me." What's more, an audit of the church's finances has revealed systematic embezzlement. The total amount is $212,000 over the last year. "More than I thought," Rebecca says quietly. "And there's more," Drake continues. "We questioned Laura Simmons. She admitted to having an affair with the pastor, but claims she didn't know where the money he showered her with came from." "She's lying," Rebecca says confidently. "James told me himself that she knew. They discussed what to do with me." Drake nods. "We're checking her accounts and phone calls. If we find evidence of complicity..." "What will happen to me?" Rebecca asks. "The prosecutor is leaning toward self-defense," the detective replies. "Given all the circumstances, the likelihood of charges being filed is minimal." April 17th, Holy Redemption Church, Church Council meeting. Robert Fisher, the church elder, stands before the congregation, his face haggard from fatigue and stress. "The last few days have been the most difficult in the history of our community," he says. "We have lost our pastor. We have learned of a betrayal of our trust, and now we must decide how to move forward." Walter Green, the treasurer, raises his hand. "First, I want to apologize. I suspected financial irregularities, but I kept quiet for too long. If I had spoken up earlier..." "It's not your fault," interrupts an elderly parishioner. "We were all blind. We only saw what we wanted to see." Laura Simmons sits in the back rows. Some parishioners cast judgmental glances at her. "What about Rebecca?" someone asks. "She suffered for years, and we didn't notice." "I spoke with her yesterday," replies Sarah, who is attending the meeting. "She's grateful for the support, but she's not ready to return to the community. Too many painful memories." Laura stands up. All eyes turn to her. "I'd like to say..." "We don't want to hear it," Deacon Williams interrupts her sharply. "You were part of this deception." "I didn't know about the theft," Laura defends herself. "James said it was money from his family inheritance." "And you believed him?" Walter Green asks skeptically. "Or did you just not want to know the truth?" Laura lowers her head. "I'm leaving the church and the town. I just wanted to apologize before I left." "Apologies won't bring back the stolen money," Robert Fisher says, "and they won't heal the pain you helped cause Rebecca." April 20th, District Attorney's Office. Elizabeth Martinez meets with Rebecca and her lawyer. "I am officially dropping the charges," Martinez says. "All the evidence points to self-defense, the history of abuse, the attempted poisoning, the witness statements about your relationship with your husband." Rebecca exhales with relief. "Thank you. As for Laura Simmons," the prosecutor continues, "we have found evidence of her knowledge of the origin of the money, messages where she and James discuss church funds, and the need to deal with Rebecca. She has been charged with accessory to theft and conspiracy." "They really were planning to kill me," Rebecca says quietly. "It looks that way," Martinez agrees. "But we don't have any direct evidence of a conspiracy, only financial crimes." April 25th. A small apartment on the outskirts of Riverside, an hour's drive from Mill Creek. Rebecca is unpacking the last boxes. The doorbell rings. "No housewarming without cake," smiles Sarah, handing her a large box from the bakery. They sit down on the sofa surrounded by boxes. "How are you?" Sarah asks. "Day by day," Rebecca replies. "Therapy is helping, and the fact that I finally started working. Riverside Elementary School got a great teacher." Sarah nods. "You always wanted to go back to teaching." "James thought it was incompatible with being a pastor's wife," Rebecca says with a bitter smile. "Now I realize how much of myself I gave up trying to live up to his expectations." "Have you heard the news?" Sarah asks. Laura agreed to a deal. She pleaded guilty in exchange for a lighter sentence, 2 years probation and full restitution. "And the church? How are they?" "They're hiring a new pastor, a woman, imagine that," Sarah smiles. "And they've introduced a new financial control system. Walter's not the only one keeping an eye on the money now." Rebecca looks out the window. "You know what's strange? Sometimes I miss James, the James I once loved, the James who may never have existed." "That's normal," says Sarah. "You're not just mourning him, but your hopes and dreams for a future that will never be." I can't help thinking, what if I had left earlier? What if I had found the courage to stand up to him years ago? "Don't beat yourself up about it," says Sarah gently. "You did everything you could in that situation." May 1st, Mill Creek Cemetery. Detective Michael Drake stands in front of James Howard's fresh grave. Sheriff Donovan stands beside him. "Strange case," the sheriff says. "A man everyone thought was a model citizen turned out to be a monster." "People see what they want to see," Drake replies, "especially when it comes to those they trust for spiritual guidance." "How's Rebecca?" "She's doing okay. She moved to Riverside and went back to teaching." "And the church?" "Trying to rebuild. Some parishioners left, unable to survive the betrayal, but most stayed." "What does this story teach us, Mike?" the sheriff asks, thoughtfully. Drake stares at the grave for a long time. That appearances can be deceiving, that violence thrives in silence and isolation, and that sometimes it takes incredible courage to finally say, "Enough." May 15th, Riverside Elementary School. Rebecca Howard, now Rebecca Clark again, having reclaimed her maiden name, is teaching a 3rd grade class. "Who can name the planets in the solar system?" she asks, and dozens of hands shoot up. After class, she stays behind to check notebooks. There's a knock at the door. It's the principal. "How was your day, Miss Clark?" "Wonderful," Rebecca smiles sincerely. "The kids are amazing. They adore you," the principal nods. "It's hard to believe you haven't taught for so long." "I never stopped being a teacher at heart," Rebecca replies. "I just forgot about it for a while." In the evening, she sits on the balcony of her apartment watching the sunset. Her phone rings. It's Sarah. "Guess what I found?" her friend asks. "Your old manuscript. The children's book you started writing before you met James." Rebecca smiles. "The Adventures of Brave Ellie? I thought it was lost." "It was in a box of things you left at my place when you moved into the pastor's house," Sarah explains. "Maybe it's time to get back to writing? You have talent?" "Maybe," Rebecca says thoughtfully. "But the story needs a new ending." "Like what?" "Where Ellie saves herself and realizes she was always strong enough." When Rebecca hangs up, she stares at her reflection in the window for a while. The bruises are long gone. The constant fear is no longer in her eyes. For the first time in many years, she sees herself as she really is, not the pastor's wife, not a victim of violence, just Rebecca, a woman who has survived and is now finally beginning to live again.